Go ahead.
1963, a found poem based on various writings. I say to you today, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, the Negro race in America needs protection and is given mob violence, needs bread and is given a stone. How many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? This nation will never stand justified before God until these things are changed. I still have a dream. Grant us now, O Dominique, the grace of love and simple mirth, deeply rooted in the American dream. We all may help to quicken an oasis of freedom, blowing in the wind, godly life and truth on earth. Dream deeply, my friends. And I think the other one you've already heard, but it's Vidibundus. Vidibundus, Vidibundus, Quercus, seagull soon does fly the silver skies to the rainbow bridge, where the ladybird on the clover leaves meets the chimney sweep in his foot-long hat, coiling brushes in his ladder. To the rainbow bridge like a sleepy bat, Vidibundus, Quercus, fight the tear gas using leaf blowers. What a curious type of war this is. Lacrimosa. Vidibundus. Take the petals of the borage if you need a bit more of courage. Be inventive like an astronaut, fly past silver skies and the rainbow bridge where the ladybird meets the chimney sweep, blowing clover leaves off the borage. Vidibundus, Quercus, Vidibundus. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was the very talented Alexandra Coates. This is Glenn Lyvers. This is the April 2022 poetry reading event. And we will move on to Sean O'Connor.
Hey, everybody. Thank you very much, Glenn. I'll read two haibun. The first is called Secrets. Secrets. Mother cat, discarding the silent kitten from her noisy litter. Millie Dyer died after giving birth in the grotto behind the closed church. It was during the first night she ever spent outside the house she was born in. They say she went there for help from the Virgin Mary, that she died in the arms of God, that her baby went straight to heaven. The forensic pathologist didn't say any of these things. She told the coroner that Millie had severed the umbilical cord with the scissors and tied it successfully. That she and her child were alive together for perhaps 4 or 5 hours. And they were found in an embrace. Drying in May sunshine, the rag doll on a clothesline, both eyes missing. And a short haibun called STEM. Recovery will take up to 6 weeks. Now it's day 3, but the risk of septicemia has abated. Up and about, tending the garden, it remains to wait it out for the results. Bring a friend, the doctor advised. You may not take it all in. Hey Machuria, they look lonesome this year. Thin-stemmed poppies. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was Sean O'Connor. All of the poets reading today have been published with Prolific Press in one form or another. We're going to move on to Michael Flanagan.
Hi, these are, I write haiku or short poems, and these are two that I had on a rainy morning here. In the darkness, a sleety rain falls, with spring only a rumor. In the darkness, a sleety rain falls, spring's only a rumor. Then lilacs and daisies, the bouquet I could afford, our first Mother's Day. Lilacs and daisies, the bouquet I could afford on our first Mother's Day. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that. I like how much that says in so few words. I really, really do. I think. I mean, I was from the Midwest when I was young, but um, totally, totally remember picking flowers for my mother, and they were wildflowers, right? Okay, moving on to Edward Ahern. Virginia, welcome to the group.
Glenn, is it moral and ethical to share screen?
Yeah, you can share the screen.
Okay,
Let
let's
me
do
just
that.
let me set the permissions for that so you're allowed. As long as you can unshare when you're done.
Oh, that's a given.
I always have trouble figuring out how to how to do that part of it. Okay,
No,
go ahead.
I know how to run for cover. Okay. Here we go, hopefully. Okay, these two poems, my apologies, incidentally, I'm told I have bronchitis, so if I cough and sputter, just ignore me until I clear my throat. I wanted some light poems, and I'm Irish, so the first one's a little schmaltzy. The mountain laurel bloomed. Laurel. I hesitated in writing this for you because I think we're much alike, inward looking and self-developing, while accommodating our lives to what's needed for the outside world. You'll probably, excuse me, do better than I did at choosing duties and amusements and holding the courses that keep you at peace with yourself and others, while still nurturing your own growth. Your quiet smile hints at anchorage in the safe harbor of your spirit, but you are gifted enough to sail out into gale forces and return weathered but still whole. Your namesake mountain laurel bloomed shortly before your birth, a modest flower hardy enough to flourish on its own, delicate enough to be admired, strong enough to survive over winter. It's been my delight to watch as you grew and developed into something private and yet giving, and my privilege to share in your warmth and achievements. With great and abiding love, Grandad Ahern. And this was written for her graduation in May from the Naval Academy. So,
Very nice.
and the second one is absolutely light. Oh, they both just got picked up for publication, so hopefully they're not too bad. This is called That Which I Wished to Never Be. I wanted not to be a saint, for they are beset by demons. I recoiled from merely spectating, for I would not exist through others. Moderation was half living, far better to immerse or abstain. I could not completely love, but I could love completely. Hatred is not my drug of choice, but I inject dissatisfactions. Absolute beliefs are chimeras. I mostly disbelieve. I am the gummy residue of my balkiness. Thank you.
That might be the first time I've seen gummy residue in a poem. So, all right. Well, thank you for that. Very enjoyable. We are going to go across the pond to Mary Gunn.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Glenn, and hello to everybody. I've got two haiku. The first one is early retirement. Missing the Cherry Blossoms by My Workplace. I'll read that one again. Early Retirement. Missing the Cherry Blossoms by My Workplace. And the second one is, sorry, my screen just went blank. I was looking at my screen there. The second one is Long Weekend. Cat and I both sleep late. Long Weekend. The cat and I both sleep late. And it is a long weekend here this weekend. The first of those was published in Cattails, and the second one was published in an anthology in England called Wild Voices.
Oh, that's
That finishes
great.
my reading.
Those short forms, you're so strong with those, Mary. Every time it's consistent.
Actually, I have one more. I have a one-liner. Do you want me to read that?
Yeah, let's hear it. There's a smaller group today. I'm sure we'd all love it.
Okay, we've just had a census here, and for the first time ever, there was a section on the form where we could write something in that wouldn't be read for 100 years. So I wrote a one-line haiku about that. And here it is. Census night, squeezing my message into the time capsule. Census night, squeezing my message into the time capsule.
Oh, that's cool. I wish they did that in the United States. I can't imagine what they'd look what I just can't imagine what the abuses they'd have to read in 100 years though.
Well, it generates a lot of interest here. There's a lot of discussions on various radio programs as to what people might put in. And, you know, in the beginning, I think, like a lot of people, I thought, gosh, what am I going to write? And then it ended up with so much I wanted to say, I had to edit it down like as if I was submitting it to an editor. But anyway, it's done, and I have a haiku to remember it. So that finishes my reading. Thanks, Glenn.
Well, you can't see this because you're over the phone, but I'll share with you that the chat is has a couple of nice messages. Michael Flanagan writes, "Great haiku, great message in one breath." Bob Moreland, nice, subtle. I see you stuff it. It's just fantastic, fantastic language. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to hear that, because I won't see those when I look back at the recording.
Right, yeah. That's what some of the poets are missing out. We want you guys to come here and enjoy the group. Leonard Lund, you're next, my friend.
Happy Saturday, everybody. Two pieces from this year's April 30/30 raising funds for the St. Baldrick's Foundation. Both of them ekphrastic. And the first one is also a high one. I don't play an awful lot with formal work, but I'm kind of enjoying these. Traveler's Chair, after the 1903 painting Interior with the Girl Reading by Carl Wilhelm Holzow. The room has changed little since the days I sat at my mother's feet, examining the morning paper's comic strips, their helium-filled words slowly making sense, while she read the news of the world just outside and oceans away from the sitting room window. The chair is mine now, still set before the window. Some days filled by sun and others by clouds of many tempers, varieties of rain and snow and fog by season. I sit as my mother did, grounded by the familiar things around me, but also separated from them by the thin thickness of a lettered page. Racing down a beach on a perfectly black horse, I thank my mother. And Returning, which is after an untitled self-portrait while seated before a mirror by the photographer Francesca Woodman. I'd forgotten this mirror, released so much, so past, but now I remember then, when I leaned my face against its other me, felt the smooth coolness and cheekily asked you to join us for lunch. You tasted me so cautiously. And I'll long remember this now when I clear away the dust and cobwebs, See an older self with you standing reflected behind me, reaching to stroke my bare nape as I reach back reflexively to stroke your wrist and arm. I feel only the smooth coldness. Thank you.
Thank you. That was just wonderful. Okay, James Bethel.
Yay, the mute button worked. I have preoccupation with travel and places. I think most poets do. This first one's both a travel and a place. Passing through the north of Dakota beyond. Passing through the north of Dakota beyond the Devil's Lake. Norma Erica is visiting her resting place. It's a ditch off a county road you would know only if you lived here forever. A scar eroded by even this day's wind, a common unmarked home for coyotes, rabbits, lizards. This crack in the earth radiates death dreams of shame, horror, greatness, and power, and some kind of vague, vulnerable whimpering. Here in this gulch formed before the rape of this Indian land, nothing cultivated grows. Mad wind and insane rivers of rain have torn away the roots of any design and obscures the line we want to draw between perpetrator and victim. Life, like dandelion fluff, is scattering across superhighways, lodging with cottonwood seed in concrete step cracks at the bank of Oklahoma, Ontario, or Maine, or wherever you are. This great place is not an important place, especially to those who live near. Here is an irritating discontinuity for tractors to negotiate, combines to avoid, and cattle to piss in. The absolute center of a continent, and yet the traveler does not visit here. It does not turn at the place marked on the highway. Miles ago, there was the briefest of moments, an opportunity to witness this place. But whatever sense of wonder may have then seemed is now an uneasiness, feeding the accelerator and the race onward to some place with a name, like a thing. And while on that same journey, Dakota deja vu. Some part of me, like a shot dead movie version of what they used to call an Indian, is starting over, like in a Randolph Scott double feature. But in this bar, in this Cheyenne town named for others who once believed and also died. Some part of me is tied to that crazy Oglala Lakota that died. That part of me is always starting over, always starting over. So many ancestors, so many songs, always starting over, and always starting over with the same belief, a belief in being. Thank you, guys.
Wow, such a nice pace with that. It's just I really was able to just go all along the whole journey. That was really nice. KB.
All right, hi everyone. I'm just gonna read one poem today, and it's going to appear in Crow and Cross Keys in July, and it is called Shadow Words. In that space between crows, between wing and feather, quill and beak, an ancient language lingers. An alto moon dreams across a forest with pale frost. We've forgotten the music of winter, of crystals on the tongue, syllables clinging to our teeth. 2 or 4, together crows boast, low vibrato from a cello, wood calling back to wood. And we shiver, not from cold, but from our bones, humming over pools of ice, solid and slick as gravestones in the rain. The space between kissing and crying, where crows blur into shadow, still murmuring like ageless druids. Listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Boy, I never get tired of this group. It's just such a surprisingly good group. This has to be the best poetry group online. I hear this a lot. People say, "Wow, how do you guys get so many good people?" I don't know. I'm just lucky. I count myself lucky. Patrice.
Yes, hi everybody. What was I going to say? Oh yes, these two poems, although they don't dwell on it, well, let me just say that Yeats's line, "That is no country for old men," has always haunted me, and that shows up in the two poems I'm going to read today. The first one is called Good Friday. And I hope you can hear the echo in the first line of the Yeats line. That is no way to treat a body, lashing the back's tender flesh with whips they say glass was attached to, then forcing it to trudge under the wooden weight of its own death, through the dull city and up to the place of skull and bones, the horrible pointed metal through the wrists, where arm and hand meet to greet stranger and friend, and through each foot that humbly bears the brave burdens of life. Then the hanging, sagging of the head, the naked cruelty of it all. Yes, there had to be a resurrection, that final rebellion, that fatal punch to the brute gut of death, restoration of fragile flesh to fragile flesh. Even the atheist wants to believe this, that anyone inflicting such atrocity should be utterly dumbfounded, that the body should be at last triumphant. And then this one, I had the opportunity to see what happened when William Shatner went up in space. And so I wrote this. It's called Earth Voyage for William Shatner, October 17, 2021. All delicacy and fragility, we each tack a small ship with gossamer sails, thin switches for masts. We fight the thick blue ocean of our nightmares for our blood that would taint the sea a melancholy red. We would drink salt water if it kept us sound, but it won't. Heaven forbid a storm should rise. If only the sextant would point us by the best stars, a clear trek to wherever we are going. Some country for any woman or man. Earth, the final frontier for any voyage home. Thanks.
Thank you. Kind of landed us right around the Easter holiday. Bob
Yeah.
Moreland. Bob, you are muted.
There we go.
There
There
you
we go. I know our political sensibilities are supposed to be dampened. I'm going to start you with a Ukrainian word today for all my friends who are professors in Ukraine. It is rozamants. In Ukrainian, it means wolverines. Please, good thoughts, prayers, whatever you care for all my friends that are still alive and those who aren't. With that said, I'm going to start with a poem that Glenn daringly published in Inwood, Indiana, when I first encountered it. It's called April Showers. I love you naked, skin on skin, radiating warmth, spooning together, holding your breaths that overflow from my cupped hands. Spring rain falls gently, thunder growls lowly, rattling panes. You sleep, spent from afternoon delight, and I watch you breathe, peacefully embracing bliss. Smell of rain drifts past the garage sale curtains. I listen to your heart, blood coursing rhythmically, sign of mortality, holding that instant of life. The metronome of the shower marks the minutes lost in rapture, and I'm blessed to hold eternity in my hands. Now, to date, everyone, this one was just amazingly accepted in the Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets calendar. I'd take a poll of how many people remember Burma shade signs, but if you wiki them, as you drove down the road, there would be a 5-line poem, and you'd get the first verse, then the second, and then it would have some jingle. These are 3 Burma shade signs. The poem is entitled Roadside Verse in the Tradition of Burma shade. 1. It's black and white. There's no debate. A million cows can't be wrong. It's a dairy state. These are all about Wisconsin. 2. Oleo does not know butter is better. Wisconsin made sweet cream spread. Oh, and 3. The sweetest corn, the coldest beer. Picnic in Paris, Wisconsin, St. John's Festival, end of July cheer. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, when I was a kid, we still ran across the Burma shave signs, and someone, I like to imagine that it was a family that, passed this down through the family. I don't know how else it could have happened, but I was traveling along a back road and I came across a Burma shave series that someone had, sort of resurrected, reworked, maybe replicated, I guess is the word. It was just really, really cute. Dennis Malsby.
Okay, guys, I've got 2 pieces of free verse. It's not letting me screen share. Well, let me change the program because I can't screen share. I don't have the poems before me. Let me start out by asking if anybody has written sci-fi-ku. It's SCIFAIKU. It's getting to be pretty popular.
Yeah,
So
I
let me
wrote a
read-
cycle. I did.
Let me read a couple of them. Martian lap dance. Her scales shred my skin. Martian lap dance. Her scales shred my skin.
I'm sorry. Oh my, that's
Okay, number
great.
2, time machine fizzles face to face with Tyrannosaurus. Time machine fizzles face to face with Tyrannosaurus. And a third haiku, which is not sci-fi-ku, back seats at the cinema, tongued kiss. Back seats at the cinema, tongued kiss.
Thanks, Dennis. Oh my gosh, I think I could read those all day. I can see why they're popular. I don't even get those in the slush pile, so we're not,
Yeah,
really
well,
not we're not the venue for
those
those, I
are
guess.
not the traditional 575. There are, I think it's just its beginning. I don't think sci-fi coup got started until the late 90s. And they're not popular with a lot of journals, but there are some more journals now that will accept them. So if you want to write some, there are some places to get them published.
I just got done judging the Iowa haiku um, contest for the Iowa Poetry Society, and it was a wonderful experience. So many great pieces, and I can't wait to see all of the poems when they come out. Just a fantastic group. Okay. Shred my skin. Shasta Hatter.
Hi, I love the science fiction haiku. So I have two haikus. One's called, well, what technically one's a haiku and one's Tonka prose, but the first one is called Remote. Russia has been at the border for days. CNN thinks there has been some movement. They don't seem to know much. I'm following a contestant on Jeopardy, so I switched channels. CNN might know more in half an hour. ABC News breaks into Jeopardy with a special report. I hope ABC isn't interrupting my game show for the same vague information. The Jeopardy reporter advises that there have been reports of tanks rolling across the border. He tells us that the explosions in the background are believed to be shelling by Russian forces. Journalists scattered across several cities deliver similar reports. I'm struck by how calm and cautious each reporter is as they make this first footage of the war. Tears roll down my cheeks. When the special report ends, Wheel of Fortune is spinning. I switch channels back to the news and stay there all night. And the haiku is, bears shake a chain link fence. The sunflower stands tall. Thank you.
Thank you.
And on a completely different subject, this one is called Baby Shoes. My 21-year-old granddaughter tells me she has put in an application for an apartment. She has lived with me for almost 2 years, but it is time for her to go. She does not want to move back to her mother's. She has been looking for 4 months, and this is the first apartment that has encouraged her to apply. She tells me she isn't sure how much the rent will be and will only say it is in Portland. She is generally evasive, so this vague information doesn't surprise me. She tells me she will know on Tuesday. I wish her good luck, she smiles. And then the Tonka is one uncertain step. The toddler claps her hands and falls laughing. Bouncing back up, she crosses the room. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call Edward Canavan. First, I'm going to read one, and then we'll wrap up. I'm going to turn off the recording, and anybody wants to stick around to hear something cool I found on Netflix, they can do that.
Is it me?
It's me, and then you.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Hi, Edward. I didn't even say hi to you because you kind of snuck in.
No, that's cool. That's
Good
cool.
to see
I was
you,
a
buddy.
little late.
So Cynthia Ozick is a writer, a Jewish writer, writes about the Holocaust. She wrote this incredibly moving short piece. It's, I believe, nonfiction. It's called The Shawl. And so at the beginning of the poem, there's a quote from that. Her knees were tumors on sticks, her elbows chicken bones. Cynthia Ozick, The Shawl. The poem I wrote was called Tears for the Children. Under the bridges, hollow sockets give up their reflective sheens for the glossy-eyed, red-headed children in the meadows. Haircuts are exchanged for breaking off bit by bit. Time brings the springs of a million foundries, pouring tears into molds and jumping into children and showering into the thinning air, the becoming air starvation brings. Knees become tumors on sticks while high-handed soldiers march and march in march and march until they mar everything except the glossy eyes of playful, careless children in the meadows of America. A little heavier than my usual work. All right, Edward Canavan.
Thank you. I'm going to read two. This first one is called Wild Once. It's going to be published in the summer edition of the Poetica Review. Wild Once. Sheltered from the mad city as riotous joy explodes through the night. Times ago, it might have been me out there, on fire with victory and hopeless abandon, with no reason not to paint the town every goddamn night. In for a penny, in for a pound. But some lines we crossed silently, somewhere near the half-century mark. Maybe knowing better, maybe just tired, cutting our losses and sitting more out than in. Content to have lived through it before in one way and lived through it now in another. Maybe just feeling grateful to still be around long enough to see things from the other side. And the second one is called Bondage of Self. Held in place by rotted stakes of claim, ghosts of overstayed welcome and grave concern haunt the empty spaces left by the shed skin of past ways. Snakes crawl from the holy mouths of remission, lauding gods of little understanding and the saints of nowhere fast, pulling strings and poking holes. Divinity is neither above nor below, but amidst the awakened dust of the stars within us all. Thank you.
Actually, Virginia, did you read? You didn't read yet, right?
I didn't. I'm sorry I'm late.
Thank you, Edward, for that. That was nice. Okay, Virginia.
Okay. The first poem is, in the emergency department with my father, I am watching his lips lie. Lips that have always been on the thin side, but now they are barely there, imploding along with the rest of him. Shoulders unrecognizable, neck so scrawny I imagine chicken bones buried there. No, I didn't fall. I never fall. That's when an old woman's bluish hand drops from white sheeted gurney in the corridor, hand that swings once before hanging limp, silver charm bracelet, cloudy diamond, pale pink nail polish, hand that gripped monkey bars, a boyfriend's hand, scrubbed parquet floors, changed bawling babies, clapped at dance recitals, gardened, watercolored, played Parcheesi, pressed the remote. Hand like the trembling hands in church pews I remember as a child, gripping rosary beads, prettier than jeweled necklaces. When the doctor asked me, did he fall? My father cups broad hands around his mouth, boos him the way he used to put lousy baseball umpires in their place. Tentative booing from another room catches on fire, and soon the whole place is in an uproar. My father grins like a schoolboy. And the other one, I hope isn't too political, but the title is War Crimes. Every day I read poems from around the world written contemporaneously with Putin's invasion of Ukraine. So many moving poems, unforgettable poems, poems of historical import. I applaud these poets from the comforts of my home, where my cat has a drawer full of food and catnip treats. My clothes spin in a washer of fragrant water. The pantry is stocked, oil tank filled to the brim, front yard fertilized green. Enjoying this sunny day of early spring feels like a crime. I finished reading and examined recent photos from the war. Wandering one-eyed dog, weeping grandmother, bright yellow handkerchief knotted under her wet chin. Dead bodies, some children face down in muddy puddles, necks broken, frozen at broken angles. In one photo of a mass grave, I spot robin's egg blue, that lovely speckled hue. Not eggs this time, but fingernails of an ashen, slender hand breaking through Earth's surface, reaching for open air. Wrist draped as if to show me an impeccable manicure she prays will match her Easter dress. Thank you.
Thank you. Your endings of your work are always so, they're just like these surprising little punches and then there's this resonance where I'm like, oh, I always get that with your work. I just really appreciate that. Okay, let me just wrap up this part of things and turn the recording off. Thank you everybody for visiting. This was the Prolific Press Poetry Reading for April 2022. This is always open to anybody who's been published by Prolific Press. So if you have been published in any of our journals or our chapbook series, the International Chapbook Series, or our full publishing platform, you can reach out and get an invitation to these events. And so thank you everybody for showing up. Let me just stop the recording.